I can remember the main lead professor for this program at the design school. He took 6 of us. He sat us down and he said, based on your performance, you're going to fail this course and you will not graduate. He was very frank about it. It was almost matter of fact about it. Like, your performance has been so poor, so subpar that we are going to fail you. You are not going to get any kind of credentials or degree from the Graduate School of Design attached to your name. You're that bad. Welcome to the SuperPumped Life podcast, where my mission is to engage, excite, and ignite your super pumped life. I'm your host, Ben Walters, an entrepreneur, pastor, consultant, and life coach. On this podcast, I will not only challenge you to dream big, I will help you take actionable, concrete steps to get from where you're at to where you want to go and start living your super pumped life. If you have ever been told you're failing, either in your job or academically, or even in a relationship, this is a podcast series for you, because I am going to share some things that are embarrassing, some things that I wish turned out better. But I hope that through my failures and me being willing to be transparent and humble and share those, that it's going to help you in your life and be willing to take risks and be okay with the idea of failing, because failure really is just another step on our journey towards success. And so often we get paralyzed by the fact that if we fail, we're somehow less than, or we're somehow not the people we want to be, or the people we're putting out on our public persona on social media. And so failure's kind of gotten a bad connotation, but failure is actually a really good thing. It's how we grow. It's how we push ourselves and so forth. So today is the third in a 4-part series on fall fails. And this one brings me into academia, which is one of the places we hear the word, pass fail, or I failed my class, or I failed my test, or I got an F on my paper, or whatever that is. Last episode, I had shared how I was in South Africa and I was working with disabled entrepreneurs, and I ended up entering a bike contest, and it was an epic fail in the bike race. Today, though, I want to go back into graduate school. I was lucky enough to apply to and be accepted to graduate school at Harvard. I did a master's in public policy and urban planning. And so the way that degree program worked is the master's in public policy part was at the JFK School of Government. And then the urban planning portion was at the Graduate School of Design. And so the first year, you were 10 courses, boot camp with a cohort in the Kennedy School, right? Learning about government on kind of a theoretical level and case studies. It was incredible. The professors I had were just top notch. And so that was the first year. But then the second year was the urban planning part. I had to go to the Graduate School of Design. And this was super intimidating for me. The building, if you've ever been to the Harvard Graduate School of Design, it's built like a big slope. And I don't know if it's 6 or 7 stories, but it's all studio space. So there's almost no classroom space in that. It's a really cool design. And so each person has a studio, probably 10 by 10, and they have a big drawing table, and it's all based on putting ideas kind of on big paper to show to people. And this was pre-CAD. So this was actually like pencil on Mylar, ink on Mylar, that kind of drawing, right? Pencil, paper, charrettes, that sort of thing. I can remember being super intimidated by this, because here I am in the Graduate School of Design with some of the brightest young people who were either architecture majors or design majors who had real skills in this department. And for us, this was the first year of a new program that Harvard had put together, right? So there were only 10 of us in this program. First time kind of guinea pigs in the program. And so none of us had that design or architecture background, right? So we didn't know how to put ideas from here in our head onto paper. And so their solution to that was a 2-week crash course in design, kind of learning the basics of how to convey ideas on paper in that medium. Now, that is a very ambitious plan to think, even though I'd say all 10 of us were very bright, to learn that skill that others had crafted over years in 2 weeks was a tall order. And so we basically had our crash course in how to put ideas on paper. And then we were thrown into design courses with all these top students from around the country. And right off the bat, it was like, I think all 10 of us felt like we were in the deep end of the pool, drowning with no life preserver. It was just brutal. We went through our first 2 or 3 projects, and it was just a bloodbath. Even though I think many of us had good ideas about how to design a road system or a public transportation or a public housing network and how that would fit in the context of a city, we weren't able to do that very well. And so I can remember the main lead professor for this program at the design school, he took 6 of us. So I guess 4 of us were doing well enough that we didn't have to get this come to Jesus meeting, right? And so 6 of us, he sat us down and he said, based on your performance through about 40% of the course, maybe 50, we might have been right around the halfway point midterms, you're going to fail this course and you will not graduate with an MPP UP degree. He was very frank about it. It was almost matter of fact about it. Like, your performance has been so poor, so subpar, that we are going to fail you. You are not going to get any kind of credentials or degree from the Graduate School of Design attached to your name. You're that bad. Now, for a lot of type A high achievers to be told you're so bad, you're going to fail, this was a real kick. Think about it. These are all people at Harvard, people who have generally kicked butt in the academic realm, right? And we're all being told, get it together or you're done. And so I can remember just being devastated. I called my parents, even though I was 26, I called my parents and I'm like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I mean, I was on the verge of tears. I was just deflated and just so beat down. I thought, I am going to fail out of Harvard. This sucks. And so then my parents were like, well, you got to keep working. And so I kind of started to adopt that idea. I had a grandfather and he was a journeyman electrician. And the one thing I remember about him, I would spend the night at their house from time to time. And I remember was he always got up early. He packed his lunch, and it was one of those big old metal lunch pails, right? He'd put his thermos in there with some coffee, sandwich and all that stuff. And he'd grab that lunch pail and he'd head out to work. And often he didn't have work, but it was just that idea that he grabbed it. He got up early, grabbed his lunch pail, and he went to work. And he was just grinding. And I thought, I am going to adopt that Grandpa Sarton mentality in Harvard. I am going to get up every day. I'm going to grab my lunch pail and I'm going to go to work. And that's what I did. I actually packed a lunch and I went to the design school and I was there almost from sunup until 9, 10, 11 at night. Just keep grinding. So many of us, I think, when we're on the verge of failing or we're struggling, we have this tendency to want to quit, right? But I would tell you the first and most critical thing is keep grinding, keep working. So that was the first thing. The second thing I'm going to tell you is you can't do this in isolation. There is a point where you need to reach out to others. And one of the things, and I think this happens to a lot of us as students, is the professor, when they hand out the syllabus, they say, these are my office hours, and I've got a graduate assistant with these office hours. But we want to think we have it all together, right? That we don't need help. It feels humbling or less than to say, I need help. Up till that point, I hadn't gone to any office hours. So I was like, wow, okay, so I'm doing this on my own and I'm failing. Yet there are resources out there and I'm not utilizing. That is not working harder or smarter. That's working dumb. And so I decided I am going to basically show up to office hours every single time they offer them, whether it's my professor, whether it's a graduate student. I am going to show them, here's what I've been working on. How do I make this drawing better? How do I convey this idea better? Now, they didn't tell me everything to do, but they'd say, well, if you work on this, or if you could redraw that, it would better show your ideas. And so that's what I did. I just started grinding with that help. The other thing I did was there were the 10 of us that were kind of in the deep end of the pool and didn't know what we were doing, but we had maybe 50 kids or students in that design lab, right? Who did know what they were doing, who were the brightest of the bright in that field. So I began to ask my peers for help. Here you're just working at your desk, but go 2 desks over and be like, wow, that is really cool. How do I do that? And you know what's the crazy thing? So many of your peers want to help you. It's kind of exciting for them to be like, yeah, I am pretty good. Let me help you with this. And so I began to ask my peers for help in business and in life. So often we want to go it alone, but there are experts out there who can help us. But there are also peer coaching groups that can really help us. People who maybe have just been down that road a couple of years earlier or are going through the same struggles. And then the last thing in terms of this kind of asking for help is we formed this bond among the 6 of us, like the dirty half dozen who were about to fail. And so we would commiserate with each other. Man, this stinks. Man, this is hard. Man, I'm feeling beat down. And so we began to support one another. So rather than be in isolation, we asked for expert help, we asked for peer help, and then we also had people to commiserate with in that moment. So that was a second thing to remember. Then the third thing is, I used to coach a lot of youth athletic sports, right? And one of the phrases I'd say is leave it all on the field. Like, don't hold back anything, whether you're on the soccer field or swinging a tennis racket or on the basketball court or the baseball field, leave it all out there. Hustle, work hard, dive, give it your all. Like when you walk off that field, you should be exhausted. And yet somehow in the business or professional or academic realm, we lose that ability to leave it all out there, to give our entire selves, to block out everything else and to leave it all on the field. And so I said to myself, I may fail out of Harvard. I may not get this MPP UP degree because my UP portion is terrible, but I'm not going to leave here failing, not having left every ounce of every part of my being on that field, in that lab, in that school. That's what we've got to do. So this is our third of fall fails. This is my academic fall fail. But 3 key lessons: keep grinding, ask for help, whether that's expert help, whether that's peer help, whether that's just support group help, and then leave it all on the field. And here's the rest of the story. Somehow, some way, I made it through that lab. I passed, and I passed the next lab. And do you know what happened? That June, I walked with one of the first 10 MPP UP degrees that Harvard's Kennedy School and Harvard's Graduate School of Design had ever given out. And do you know what? Maybe I just made it over that line. Maybe I was just above that failure line, but it was a success. And you know what? That degree hangs on my wall. And every time I look at it, I think, man, I was so close to failing. And yet somehow with these 3 things, grinding, asking for help, and leaving it all on the field, that's still hanging there all these years later. This is our super pumped moment. Get out there and fail, but fail epically. And when you do, you will be so proud and you will look back and say, I am so glad I gave my all for that cause. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Super pumped. Thanks for joining me today on the Super Pumped Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, I have 2 really quick next steps for you. First, subscribe or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube so you don't miss future shows. And second, jump on over to SuperPumped.com where there are all kinds of great tips and tools for you to launch your Super Pumped life. Keep well, and I'll see you next time.